Hey y'all, I'm Tiffany with Hilltop Tulips, and in today's video we're going to be talking about my top 10 most frequently asked questions about homeschooling. Alright guys, we're going to jump right in with number one. So I got my little notes down here if y'all see me glancing down. So the number one question I get is, how do we get started homeschooling? So this is going to vary depending on where you live. The homeschooling laws in each state is going to be different. Most of my information that I have is going to be North Carolina specific because that's where we homeschool. I know a little bit about Virginia because we were considering moving there, but haven't really been homeschooling in Virginia. You know, I don't know all the ins and outs. So if you are homeschooling in another state, definitely check your homeschool laws for that state. So in North Carolina, to get started, you most likely, if you're coming from public school, you are going to have to withdraw your child from public school. So recently, this seems like it's been updated a little bit. Each school is going to be specific. Each school district is going to be specific as to what they request. So you'll just need to check with your school district, see what they request, and then go along with that. Sometimes they make you jump through hoops, and I really think it's because they don't want you withdrawing your kids. They want your kids still enrolled in their schools, you know, and they want to cover themselves instead of just letting you not bring your kid to school anymore. They want to make sure that you're doing something in place of school. So not that you're just withdrawing them where they're truant, but that you're going to be schooling them in some sort. So just jump through their hoops, do what they ask you to do to get your kid withdrew. You only have to do it once. Go ahead and get that taken care of. If your child has not started public school yet, then when they're 7, you can open your homeschool, enroll them in your homeschool. Between the ages of 5 and 7, there's a whole different process for that, and I'm not familiar with that. We didn't start out that way. I didn't have to withdraw my child when they were 5 or 6. My youngest she just turned 7, and even though we've homeschooled for 3 years, my homeschool was open because of my oldest daughter, so I didn't have to worry about like withdrawing her out of public school or anything like that. I just added her to my homeschool this year since she turned 7. But if you have a 5 or 6 year old that you're going to be withdrawing, I can look up the process for that and try to tag that in the links below. I'm going to put some links throughout the video I'll mention. Those are going to be in the comment section below for you to research and reference back to. So when you're getting started, your first step's either going to be to withdraw your child if they're already enrolled in public school, and then you're going to have to file your notice of intent. So the notice of intent can't be filed during the summer. I think they open back up July 9th, I think it was. So you can file those now. So to file your notice of intent, you have to have a high school diploma or equivalent, and then you just go online and fill out the notice of intent information. So when you're filling that out, you are going to have to name your school. You do not want to name it Fluffy Bunny Rainbow Academy. As fun as that is, and I love that name, you are going to have to issue your child a diploma that they're going to provide to colleges. And for your child to say, I graduated from Fluffy Bunny Rainbow Academy, they may not be taken as seriously once they enroll in college. So you want to keep that in mind. Ours is Hilltop Academy because the name of my company is Hilltop Tulips. It sounds professional enough for me, Hilltop Academy. I think you can't put anything like university or things like that. There's some qualifications, and I'll try to research that too. You can't use some names, some words in your name, but you can, for the most part, name it anything you want to name it. Just keep in mind that you're going to be issuing your child a diploma, a report card. This is a legal entity, I guess you would say. So maybe keep it kind of professional when you pick your name. There is a school that is called Homeschool. There's a group of people that do K-12 in our state. I believe they have it in other states as well. I think they have it in Virginia too. And some parents will say, we homeschool, we do K-12. K-12 is public school at home, which is totally fine. If that's what you want to do and that's what works for you, that's fine. But just know the laws are a little different. You don't have to file a notice of intent to homeschool and open a homeschool if your child's going to be doing K-12, because that is just public school at home. They're not technically part of a homeschool. And I can try to put a K-12 link down below too, because for a lot of people that works better. They have live teachers. They have to log into their class at a certain time. And it's like online school from home. And they send you so much equipment and like materials. They send you everything you need. It's exactly like public school at home. I believe it is free too. So for a lot of people, that's a great option. And if that's something that you're interested in, I don't have a ton of information on it. I just know we decided not to do it because we like the flexibility of homeschool, being able to make our own hours, being able to take off time when we need to, being able to choose our curriculum, as long as we, cover the basics. I don't want my kids to get behind, but we'll get on to that curriculum later on in the video. So yeah. If you're interested in homeschooling but you don't have a lot of hands-on time, K-12 may be a good option for you, but it is different than homeschool. You don't have to file a notice of intent and open a homeschool to do K-12. So, number 2, can someone else teach my kid? So, this is a multifaceted answer. Technically, yes. You can have experts teach your kids certain subjects. You can have tutors. Just keep in mind that you're the sole provider for their education. You're solely responsible for their education. So you can't send them to someone else and then at the end of the year when they don't know something, say, well, I was sending them to this co-op. They're supposed to learn everything there. When you open a homeschool and decide to become the administrator, I guess, of your homeschool, you're responsible for their education. So if you are sending them somewhere else for classes, getting their education through a different route other than you being the hands-on teacher, you want to make sure constantly that you're checking up on what they're learning and see if you need to fill in any gaps. A lot of parents will use like a math tutor to help them with whatever math curriculum they've decided to use, and let that math tutor kind of teach them their math, and that is totally fine. If you choose to do it that way, no problem with that whatsoever. So the short answer is yes. Long answer is basically make sure you're involved with what your kid's learning. Number 3, what curriculum do you use? So with homeschool, if you're not doing something like K-12, with K-12, everything's going to be sent to you. It's going to be picked out by someone else. But if you're doing regular homeschool, you choose what curriculum you use. And it's really up to you. The requirements in North Carolina are super vague. They just want you to hit a similar schedule to what public school does. So that's 180 days, I believe. And then not schedule as in hours, but amount of days. And then you have to administer one standardized test. That's the only requirements. Everything else is up to you. You can teach them as much or as little as you want. Just keep in mind, this is your child's future. You don't want your child to be behind or not know something that they need to know. Basically, that's the long and short of it. So you can use whatever curriculum you feel like covers the information. We use Power Homeschool. So with Power Homeschool, there's 7 courses to choose from. You don't have to do all 7. So it's up to 7. They don't have to do 7 courses. But I usually, since we've started homeschooling, I have decided to use a curriculum like that to make sure I'm not missing anything. I feel like it's comprehensive. It includes everything. You can look through the scope and sequence for your local public school and see what they're going to be learning, and then compare that to the curriculum you choose and make sure that your child's going to know everything that someone in their grade in public school is going to know, and hopefully then more additional to that, as one of the benefits of homeschooling. So use whatever curriculum you like. We use Power Homeschool, like I said, and then for our social studies we used Oh Freedom, which is U.S. history from a decolonized perspective. So it goes through Native Americans, Asian Americans, all different races. It's just told from a different point of view than some history curriculums are. So we decided to use that, and you can honestly use that for multiple years. There's so much information in that it's, unless you, I don't even know how you would cover it all in one school year. So like, we picked out the things that we were going to do, we highlighted them, then the next year went back and worked through other things and revisited things that I felt like were really important and did different activities. So that is a very, very intensive curriculum that covers a lot of information that you can use for multiple school years. I use other things, like we use the American Girl, the Care and Keeping of You for our health. There's a generalized health course that we use on Power Homeschool, but to get more specific, because I have daughters, and I think they have a boy version too. It's through American Girl, but I think they have a boy version too. It's more specific to caring for a female body and the things that females are going to go through, and it's not specifically like sex ed. I didn't want them doing anything like that. Not at this age. We're not at that point where I feel like that's pertinent information for them yet. And as their parent, that's my decision. As the parent of your child, you decide when you want them to learn those things. That's a benefit of homeschool. I do not think that my 5th grader needed to be learning some of the things that they teach in the sex ed class. So I really liked being able to tailor that to something that I was more comfortable with. And so that's kind of what we do through the Care and Keeping of You. We just hit certain topics throughout the year. With my little one, she is going into 2nd grade, so we're going to get a little more in depth, talk about some other things that we didn't talk about last year. And you can use we use different books from the library, things like that, to help us teach those things. And then there's a website called Teachers Pay Teachers. If I ever want to do any type of unit study or anything, like any specific course that I want to teach them or specific subject that I want to teach them, and I don't have the time or knowledge or energy or whatever to develop the little unit study myself, Teachers Pay Teachers is an excellent website. Everything I've ever gotten from there has been top-notch quality. I love that website. I cannot recommend it more. There are things on there that are $1, $2, $3, depending on the size of the packet that you're getting, the information that you're getting. I purchased a France unit study from there when we were learning about France in one of our off weeks. I like to do unit studies because they're still learning, but it's more fun. And we made French food and things like that. And it's definitely a great website if you've never looked at it before, even if your kids are in public school. There's so many resources on there, and it's made by teachers, and the proceeds go directly to the teacher that created the item. They're selling it like they would on Etsy or something like that. And then Canva. I like to use Canva to create my own curriculum when I have the time to do that, or when it's something that's within my scope, basically, either education-wise, time-wise, patience-wise. If it's something that I can create, I usually use Canva to do that. If it's not something that I can just do really quick in like Word or something like that, if I want graphics and things, I'll use Canva to create that. So curriculum, the long story short, is up to you. Just make sure that they're learning everything you want them to learn, and you can use whatever you want. So, number 4, the cost. The cost is completely up to you. It's tailored to each individual family. It doesn't cost anything to homeschool. The cost is going to be in the materials you decide to use, the curriculum you decide to use. I'm sure you can find free curriculum. There's things like Easy Peasy. I believe Easy Peasy is still free. And then like you can use Khan Academy for your math. There are free sources. They may not be as comprehensive as something that you're going to pay for, but you can homeschool for free. It doesn't have to cost any money. That is just completely up to you. Power Homeschool, which is what we spend the most on, is $25 per month, and that's for up to 7 courses. That is completely comprehensive. You could use that to cover all of your school. You wouldn't have to buy anything extra, use anything extra. You could use just that and be totally fine with it, and cover everything required. I say required, but everything that someone in public school would be learning. So totally up to you. Long story short with that one is it can cost as much or as little as you want. You can buy all the fancy gadgets. You can go buy a microscope and a telescope and all these different things for science and all these different books for English, or you could go to the library and check those things out, you know. So it's totally up to you and completely customizable. So number 5, hours. How long does it take to homeschool? This is going to vary per parent, per child. So basically, it's going to just depend on how long it takes them to grasp a certain subject and to get their work done that you've designated for them to do for that day. And that is totally fine. Some kids are going to take longer. Some kids are going to get through it super quick, like shockingly quick. And you're going to be like, okay, we need to add some things. Like, you should still be doing something. So with homeschool, it's different than public school in that they don't have to line up for lunch. They don't have to wait on the other kids to finish before they move on to the next thing. So it's possible for them to get done super quick. For like a kindergartner, 15-20 minutes maybe of doing some kind of educational play is really all they need. They don't need structured curriculum in kindergarten. You just make sure, you know, you're playing with blocks with them and counting and things like that. Sorry if y'all can hear the thunder. It's starting to storm here. So it's going to vary based on how much hands-on time you have to get the things that you need to get done with the child, what age they are. When they get older, the subjects are more intense and it may take a little bit longer. It may depend on just where they are in the curriculum. When my oldest is at an easy spot, basically, she can fly through her schoolwork and be done in less than an hour. Whereas if she's on something complicated and she's got to research and practice and go look for tutorials and work things out with me and rework things if she doesn't get it right initially, it can take her longer, and that's totally fine. When she had days where she was getting ahead or getting done early, she would go ahead and work ahead and maybe have Friday off or something like that. So it's totally up to you how long it takes. There's no set time, no set schedule per day. Number 6 is testing. What kind of testing is required? So in North Carolina, which is the only state I know about specifically, you're required to give one standardized test every year per child, to each child. So now that I've enrolled my youngest, now that she's going into 2nd grade, she will have to take a standardized test at some point this year. Some parents, so the rule is that you have to administer it. They don't have to finish it technically. You don't have to submit the grade. Like, there's no requirements really other than you have to administer it. But I feel like personally it's an excellent diagnostic tool to let me know where we're at, what we covered, what we need to maybe touch back on. Some parents do them at the beginning of the school year to see what they need to focus on this year. Some people do them at the end to make sure their kid learned everything they were supposed to learn. And what standardized tests are acceptable. There are I think one's called the Woodcock Johnson one. There's the CAT test. That's the one that we use. We use the CAT test. There's some other ones, and I'm going to try to link those below in the description below, some standardized tests that are acceptable. And these do cost money. So I'm not sure of the cost of any of the other standardized tests, but the CAT test, I believe, is $25, 20 or 25. And if you refer people, usually I believe there's a like a discount for a referral code or something like that. I'll see if I can put my referral code in the description below. So if you guys are going to purchase the CAT test, and if you would like to do it through my link, then I would get a little referral bonus. I'm not positive what it is. I just remember seeing a referral link on their website. So if you and some friends are homeschooling, then pass on your referral code to each other, you know. So that's another thing that costs. I should have added that back with number 4. For costs, your standardized test, whichever one you decide to use, you're going to have to pay out of pocket for that. Number 7, college. Can I homeschool if my child plans to go to college? Short answer, yes, absolutely. So a lot of colleges prefer homeschool students because they're usually much more independent learners. I think homeschool students usually do really well in college because the format for learning in college is a little different than public school. They're not as hand-fed, I think, in my opinion, personally. So I think homeschoolers are often successful in college because they've learned how to be independent learners, how to look up information that is not just readily accessible to them. That would not hold anyone back from going to college, is the fact that they were homeschooled. So if there's a specific college that your child is looking into, it never hurts to contact admissions and say, hey, I'm homeschooled. I know that we issue the diploma, etc., etc. Do y'all have any other requirements? So as a homeschool administrator, when I have an announcement coming up about my oldest when I do our curriculum breakdown for the coming school year. But if she were to graduate from my homeschool, I would issue her a diploma and a transcript from Hilltop Academy. And that's what she would take to college, provide to the college. Anyone going into college usually takes an ACT or an SAT, some type of standardized test like that. So that is going to show the school where they're at academically. And colleges, as far as I know, all colleges accept a homeschool transcript. And that's pretty much all they would need. They'll need to do their application, take their standardized test like the ACT or SAT, and just apply and go from there. There's no, they won't be not allowed to go to college because they were homeschooled, basically. Number 8, tax credits. Is there going to be any? And this is a super common question. I know I didn't think about it when I was looking into homeschooling for myself, but I get this question all the time. There's several people that I've sat down with, talked to individually, and pretty much everyone has asked, does this help on your taxes or anything like that? And I guess they're thinking along the lines of like having a home-based business, then that can help on taxes and things. But with homeschool, there's no tax advantages, no tax breaks, anything like that. There's no government assistance that's available to homeschool parents. I know in our state at least, they give out like, I think they called them Sunbucks, maybe. So any kid that's enrolled in public school, like the pandemic EBT and things like that, you don't get any of that if your child's not enrolled in public school. So in my opinion, that's a small price to pay to be able to have the freedom to teach my child what I want them to learn, how I want them to learn. I'm fine with not getting those benefits to be able to have the freedom to homeschool. But that is something to think about, and it's totally up to you. If that is something that you rely on or something that you're going to need, or if you think that providing, like if you're thinking about pulling your child out and your child eats free breakfast and lunch at school, you're going to have to provide those meals to them. And if that's going to cause a financial hardship for your family, if you have multiple children, and that's definitely something you need to factor into your budget and make sure that it's feasible for you to do. Every family situation is going to be individual, and there's no judgment whatsoever. You have to do what's right for your family. So, basically, there's no government assistance, no financial assistance, and no tax breaks or anything like that for parents who homeschool. That I'm aware of. If anyone knows anything different, leave it in the comments below. But as far as I know, none of those things are available. Number 9, discounts. So, I'll 10th finger. Are there homeschool discounts? Yes, absolutely. There are a ton of homeschool discounts. A lot of places that give teachers discounts do have a version of a homeschool discount, even if it's a little bit different from the teacher discount. I know that around us, I believe it's Barnes and Noble, they have a homeschool discount. I print out my little my ID card for my homeschool and keep it in my wallet. That way, if I'm anywhere that does offer a homeschool discount, then I can whip that out really quick and use it. I have a video where we visited Lazy Five Ranch, and they actually have homeschool days where things are cheaper. I think it was the entry was cheaper if you go during homeschool days. A lot of museums and places like that will offer discounts or homeschool days. It just depends. You'll have to check your area. It's going to vary for everyone, what is available around you locally. And then you can always just Google homeschool discounts in North Carolina or homeschool discounts in New York, wherever you're at, and see what is offered around you and what you have to do to take advantage of that. But there are a ton, so keep your eyes peeled for those, and definitely take advantage of those once you have your notice of intent filed and you have that homeschool ID. Number 10, I've saved the best for last. So, socialization. This is the biggest, this should have been number 1. This is the very biggest conversation I have with people about homeschooling, and it is definitely my favorite topic, because people will say things like, how is your kid going to be ready for the real world? How is your kid going to know how to deal with people? How is your kid going to be in social situations if they're homeschooled? And those are all valid concerns. I definitely understand why people ask those things. I think the biggest example I have to use when people say things like that are my kids. They're not weird homeschool kids. Everybody thinks if you homeschool your kid's going to be weird. There are some kids that society would call weird. I hate saying that about children, but there are some quirky kids in public school and homeschool. Homeschooling doesn't make them weird. Homeschooling doesn't give them a different personality than other kids. If they have that, they're going to have that in public school or being homeschooled. So, when you look at public school, your child is going to be stuck in a classroom with anywhere from 15 to 30, I guess, children their age. In no other place in society does that happen than school. Even once they go to college, they're going to be in there with mixed ages of people. So, public school doesn't really mimic the real world. It's a whole different situation. So it is important to socialize your homeschooler. My oldest doesn't feel like she got ample opportunity to socialize, but we started her first 3 years of homeschooling were during COVID. So things were shut down. Then when things opened, we had immunocompromised people in our family, and we weren't able to go out like that. So I feel like she didn't have an excellent example of socializing during homeschool because she wasn't able to do that either way. But it is super important if you're able to get your child socialized if they homeschool. One way that we decide to do that is through our religious organization. So if you're a part of a church or something like that, that is a great way for your child to learn to socialize. Both of my girls have large friend groups in our Kingdom Hall, and they have friends that are older, friends that are younger. My oldest recently went out to lunch with her friend, and she is like 10 years older than her, I think, but she is an excellent example of a Christian woman, and I have no problem with her going out with her. They went out to eat, so alone, my daughter, she's 14 at the time, is able to order for herself. She's able to practice using her manners and having conversation with an adult and things like that. That is socialization. That is an excellent thing to practice. Both of my girls at our weekly meetings, we have 2 a week, they see their friends. They know to speak to the adults in the congregation. They know how to shake hands. They know how to have respectful conversation. They know how to not run in public, especially when there's elderly around that they could knock over, so they're aware of other people around them. Those are all socialization. Those are great things for children to learn, and they don't have to learn it in public school. You might say, I want my kid around other people their age, which is totally fine. Like, it's great for them to have friends their age as well as older and younger. So for things like that, we do have the friend groups in our congregation that are their same age. Then there is like story time at the library, where they're usually broken up by age groups, and they teach the child how to sit, pay attention to the story, be respectful of the reader, be respectful of the people around you, keep your hands to yourself, things like that. There are also things like homeschool co-ops. A lot of times those are broken up by age group. We don't have any around us that I plan to join, either because of my schedule, because I do work full-time throughout the week. Sometimes those schedules don't line up with what we're able to do, but there's plenty of homeschool co-ops usually in any neighborhood, in any area that you're in. Just, you can give it a Google, homeschool co-ops in wherever you're at. So that can get your kids around kids their age. There are things like homeschool skate in our area. Our local skating rink has a homeschool skating day, and it's during the day, so we don't get to take advantage of it very often. But there may be discounted admission, I'm not sure, but other homeschool kids their age go at that time, or other homeschool kids go at that time, so they can meet friends their age, other people who are also homeschooled, get some socialization in. Both of my girls do 4-H, and those, like the summer adventure camps that they're doing right now, those are broken up by age groups, so they're going to meet kids their age that way as well. And that is another setting where it's academic. They're learning things. They work in groups, so they learn how to work with other people. So there are plenty of ways to make sure that your child is socialized, as well as keep them safe and protected. I may be slightly a helicopter mom. I love having my kids here at home with me. Or if they're out in a social setting, most of the time I'm still there with them, or I can control who they're with, and make sure that they're still safe with someone who I trust, as opposed to school, where you don't necessarily know who they're going to be with, or if some other person's going to have to come in and watch the class so the teacher can leave and go do something, or there's just too many variables in my opinion, especially for my younger ones. So it was important for me to have that control over their socialization. A lot of kids are exposed to things that my kids have not been exposed to, and I do not want them exposed to, and children should not be exposed to. You can't control that when they're in a public school setting. So it might be me being a helicopter mom, might be me being overprotective. That's fine. I'll take that. I understand why some people feel that way. But everyone's just going to do what they feel like is right for their kids, and that's what we've been doing. So homeschooling works for us for now. We will reevaluate at every point. We reevaluate every year and decide if what we did last year still works. So those are my answers to my top 10 most frequently asked questions about homeschooling. Definitely let me know in the comments down below if you have any other questions. I may do a follow-up video on this. I will answer any questions you may have that I'm able to answer in the comments as well. Definitely check out the description for some of the links that I mentioned today. And feel free to share this with anyone you know that is considering homeschooling or trying to decide if they're going to keep homeschooling, or anyone that's in that decision-making period. This is definitely the time to do it. I know a lot of schools are getting ready to go back, and a lot of parents are trying to decide if what they did last year, whether it was homeschool or public school, is still going to work for them this year. So share this video with anyone you think might benefit, and thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day.